With this week's release of the Canon EOS R5C, have we seen a change in the future of Canon C-range cameras? Let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome to InGaff. I'm AJ, normally here with Pete, but he is in COVID jail because, yes, he has the Rona. We make videos about all sorts of camera geekery stuff, and today we're talking again about the Canon EOS R5C, and with its release, has it changed the future of Canon cameras, and in particular, their cinema range? Now, the R5C is obviously an upgrade to last year's release of the Canon EOS R5, and the slightly negative press that that camera got for its overheating, specifically from us video shooters. Yes, it was a groundbreaking camera, one of the first hybrids to be able to shoot in 8K, but it came with that huge caveat of it overheating as soon as you record for anything over than 15 minutes. And for us video shooters, that was a nerf too big for us to ignore, and everyone was up in arms about it. So, see, the R5C was an upgrade and an answer from Canon to that. But as they announced it, it was clear that this was far more than just an upgrade to the R range. This was simultaneously a new addition to the Canon cinema range. Now, the Canon cinema range is one that has always been protected by Canon. It's been one that they've put a big wall around and said, no matter what we do in our photography cameras, none of that is going to undermine or undervalue what we do over here in our C range. It's been something that they have been very keen to protect, often to the demise of some of their cameras. If you remember 4K cameras coming out, and it was a long time until Canon introduced uncropped 4K in their photography DSLRs and even their mirrorless cameras. When the rest of the market had leaped ahead, Sony were doing 4K, 4K 60, we were starting to see Panasonic and Fuji even doing it. It was still a long time until Canon joined in, and that was because they were protecting their cinema cameras. They didn't want too many features over here in their photography cameras bleeding through to the cinema range and undermining or undervaluing what these cameras over here have to offer and for their users. So for the first time, Canon have marketed and released a camera that is clearly an addition to both sides of their market in one go. This is an addition to the cinema range. It is a C camera and simultaneously an upgrade to the EOS R5, and that for Canon is groundbreaking. This is a whole new chapter in Canon releases. And what I want to discuss and see what you guys at home think is this the start of something new? Is this the next generation of Canon? Are we going to see more of this? Or is this a one-off? Is this just a knee-jerk reaction to the bad press that the R5 got and the needed upgrade that it had? Or will we see more and more additions to the cinema range from their hybrid mirrorless bodies? I know plenty of R6 users that love that camera, but would quite like to see more of the video features and the unlimited recording bleeding over into it. So are we going to see an R6C? And what happens when the R5 becomes last generations in, let's say, a year or 18 months, maybe 2 years' time? What happens when that's end of life? Are we going to see an RC2? Are we going to see more additions from that RF mounted mirrorless bodies into the cinema range? And what does that mean for the cinema range of cameras? Well, Canon have attempted to do this once before, and it was a massive flop. Canon released the XC10, and then about 18 months to 2 years later, they released the XC15. These were from their cinema range of cameras, hence the C, but they were also hybrid photography cameras. You could take photos with these cameras, and they had a hybrid kind of form factor to them. Commercially, these were really unsuccessful. They didn't really catch on. Personally, I can say that we actually still own two XC10s, and they're phenomenal little video cameras. They're really handy, really small form factor, like a miniaturized C100 that offers quite a lot of bang for your buck. But anyway, it didn't catch on. They weren't very successful, and as such, Canon stopped kind of investing into that area of merging the markets. So the R5C is something of a step back to that idea of, can we successfully merge our hybrid photography cameras into our cinema ranges, and how does that affect either side of the industry? For certain, when we look back to the XC10 and the XC15, those cameras did have some significant shortcomings, especially by today's standards. They didn't have dual pixel autofocus, which Canon is obviously renowned for. The 4K depth wasn't quite as good. So with the R5C, we're seeing the first time that Canon is actually going all out, putting everything into a body that everyone has asked for, almost to every part of the spec sheet. As a specs list, this camera, the R5C that is, reads out as a really impressive offering. But I'm still curious as to whether the R5C is a knee-jerk reaction to all of the bad press that the R5 got for its overheating, or if it has been a long-term plan of Canon to release a video-focused R5. And if so, what is the long-term plan there? Will we see more? Is this an intentional thing, or was it planned as a one-off? It would seem odd that they would put so much effort into a one-off and in such a risky way, in jeopardizing or potentially jeopardizing the C range, which they have protected for so long. Now, if you're a Canon C range shooter, if you shoot with any of like the C300s, for example, the C100s, the C70 even, does the R5C represent anything of an offering to you? Is it a kind of camera that you're going to get? Does it even undermine the offering of some of those cameras? The C70, after all, is only £200 more expensive than the R5C, and they do offer quite a lot of the same features. So does one undermine the other, or do they both have an equal place? It's really an interesting point in Canon's timeline, and one I really want to see what you guys think. Will the R5C represent something of a sea change for Canon? Is this their next generation? Will they do more of this? And does that undermine the cinema range as a whole? And for cinema range shooters, does the R5C attract you at all, or is this more of a marketing gimmick from Canon just to whitewash the bad press that the R5 originally had? Well, that's about it for today's video. I just wanted to get these thoughts out of my head and to see what you guys think of the R5C and how it affects Canon's even, I can't talk, it's the end of the video, Canon's cinema range of videos. So until the next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.